Today we're going to talk about how to create quality note cards. And in this video, I really want to emphasize the term quality. As I've been reviewing your note cards in Noodle Tools, many of you have addressed some of the issues in the guidelines, but the majority of you have not included enough information. And so I just wanted to review the process for how you create a quality note card. So here's how we start. Again, you have to review the guidelines. So the guidelines for the introduction, which will ultimately be about 3/4 of a page of your paper, need to include A, explaining the link between free speech, book banning, and education. So you need to make sure that you have a note card or note cards that help you address that requirement. You also need to B, discuss local perspectives, and this means you need to talk specifically about local instances of book banning or book challenges. C, you need to identify the differences between banning and challenges, and so this will involve defining both of those words using the American Library Association website. And then finally, you're going to need to talk about why people seek to ban books. The last sentence of your introduction is going to be a thesis statement, and we'll address that in a separate lesson. We started talking about it today, but I'll do a separate video related to that. So the first thing you need to do when you're creating your note cards is access the Google Doc titled Taking Good Notes from Sources - Introduction. That document lists the guidelines that I just reviewed in the previous sheet of paper, and in addition to that, it has hyperlinked sources listed under each guideline. You're required to use the sources that I provide. So here's an example of one section of that. One of the guidelines for the introduction, as I just previously mentioned, is to discuss local perspectives related to book banning. I provide you with 5 different source options. So the initial step is to just glance over those and pick one. You don't know what is going to be included in all of the sources, so it just really is an investigative process. So you're just going to pick one to skim. So I'm going to select the KCTV5 source because I know that television station. I've watched it with my parents before, perhaps, is what's going through your head. So I'm going to select that, and it brings up this article. This is the transcript of a piece that appeared on KCTV5 in 2011. I'm going to read over the headline to make sure I feel like it's on my reading level. KCTV5 investigates book banning, parents versus public schools. I'm going to scan through the first couple of sentences. I notice that it takes place in Blue Springs, Missouri. That's a suburb of Kansas City. And I glance a little bit further and I see that it's talking about a specific challenge that a parent made against a book titled Hold Still, and they objected to the use of the F word in that book. So I scanned over it and I realized, gosh, I can probably use this information. I asked myself when I skimmed, is it relevant? Well, yes, it was. It was relevant to the guideline I was exploring. Do I think I can paraphrase some information in this article? Well, yes, certainly. And I also noticed as I looked over it that there were some quotations from important people. So, for example, I'm going to slide this back underneath here, and I see that there are quotes from not only the parents, but I also see that there are quotes from the American Civil Liberties Union. There's a quote from the principal of the school. So yeah, I think I could probably also find some direct quotes in addition to paraphrasing. So I could probably build several note cards from this article related to the guideline of local examples, local perspectives. So I've determined, yes, I like this article. So now what do I want to do? Well, I can't create note cards until I enter the source in Noodle Tools. So I have to open up my Noodle Tools, and this is what the Noodle Tools interface will look like. I've entered the date that the article was published, November 11th, 2011. I entered today's date. I entered the web page, and I entered the name of the website. Those are the 4 pieces that are critical in terms of what you must have in the citation. A lot of this other information is for more advanced students in high school or more complicated sources. So those are the criteria you need to make sure that you include. So now let's go back to the article. Well, this was a section that I was reading through that I determined included a lot of good information that I could condense and make it a bit more succinct and put it on the note card. In this section, I saw that it was the Blue Springs School District was something that I noticed. I also noticed that the American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU, is an entity, a nonprofit entity that protects freedom of speech and freedom of expression. So I thought I could probably utilize that in my paraphrase. I saw the name of the novel here. I saw the reasons why the novel was objected to here, and here, and here, and here. So I'm thinking, yes, I can certainly paraphrase this information. So I read, I scan over this, and then I decide now I need to paraphrase. And I know paraphrasing involves putting it in my own words. I can't just simply replace words with synonyms. I need to read it, read the section, set it aside, and then rewrite it in my own words. So after I've done that, I've ended up with this paraphrase. In 2011, a challenge happened in the Blue Springs School District, a district in the suburbs of Kansas City. 2 parents objected to their daughter reading the novel, Hold Still, which is about a young girl coping with the suicide of her best friend. The novel contains the F word, and the parents felt it was extremely inappropriate because it discusses sexual relationships in detail. The parents complained to the principal and asked that the district ban the book. I'm noticing that I need to have another quotation mark right outside of extremely inappropriate, because that actually was a direct quote that I'm utilizing inside of the paraphrase. Now, one thing that I want you to notice is this note card contains 4 complete sentences. It's dense enough, it has enough information on it that it's going to contribute some good solid information for my introduction. Now, as I continued to read through, I came across this direct quote, and this is from a representative from the ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union. And I know that I can incorporate a select number of direct quotes, and this one really I felt was powerful. It said, "You clearly can't remove a book because you disagree with the ideas in them." I thought that that was an important message to communicate. Clearly, I'm concerned when a school removes a book that was chosen by the professional library staff for inclusion in the collection, and then on the complaint of one family decides to remove the book while it's being reviewed. Yeah, this feels like this is a really important direct quote. So I've just now determined that I can, at a minimum, create 2 really solid note cards from this source. I've generated a paraphrase that summarizes the local objection, and I've incorporated a direct quote that I felt was powerful to include in my introduction. So, to summarize the process for creating good quality note cards, first of all, you look at your essential questions or your guidelines. These guide what you're going to research. And then you go to your sources and you select a source. You skim the sources. If you determine that you're going to use the source, you enter it into Noodle Tools. You then can create a note card or multiple note cards. Those note cards fall into 2 categories. They can either be direct quotes, which remain in quotation marks, or you summarize them using your own words in a paraphrase. So that's all for today. Good luck with your note cards.